Okay, so this video is just going to map out a little bit some of the interesting course material available. So to get the ball rolling, it's linked to IBM training, and it's a Coursera module set up as part of the IBM tract for Python for statistics, data analytics. And it just runs through a few key areas that are important for data analysis, so data visualization, and then a little bit, traditional statistical analysis that involves the probability distributions like t-distribution, the normal Gaussian distribution, hypothesis testing, regression analysis, and then a sort of capstone project case, the Boston housing dataset, which is still very popular amongst instructors and university professors when teaching students, because it's a nice nimble dataset that based on certain attributes, we can predict the value of properties or the median value of a property in a particular electoral district of Boston. Okay, now a couple of GitHubs that I found extremely useful to go along with that course material. The first one here is Manpreet Gupta, right? So we just show the link, and then he went through the exercises for that course. And again, he does it very well, right? Introduction to probability distributions. And I found going through the material that he presented, all very logically laid out, and sort of touches each of the main areas of visualization strategies, and it all sits in there neatly. And then the second GitHub addressed the Boston house price dataset, and then I looked here and found data analysis. I think it's this one. And actually, I go back, but that looks interesting as well. Statistics for data science with Python. And then it's the statistics for data science with Python. Final project, part of the IBM training. So final project insights into Boston real estate statistical analysis. And this is the IBM skills network. So if you take that URL and copy and go into your own Google Colab, so you have to sign in to your Colab account and follow the link and open up and look for the GitHub, which is just here, and then paste in the URL. That entire Jupyter Notebook can be made available then within your Google Colab environment. And basically everything that's in here now, normally I would try to save a copy file, save a copy in Drive. And, maybe timestamp it so that you know which day you're working with the material. And then that'll save into your Google Drive and you can access it later. In fact, if you put into the Google search in your Google Drive the date, normally the file will come up very quickly. So it's quite a nice way to order your chronology of notebooks, Python notebooks. Now, the one that I had been working with here was this one, and I just went through each of the steps, and I found the breakdown of the data set quite interesting. So useful to look at the what's in your data set. So level of criminality in per capita per area. So within the Boston electoral district, if we brought up a map of Boston, right, you can use that with Folium, and we can bring in the data also as well here. And the link, there is a URL URL link to the data file. So the way we bring in the data is not through a library, but in fact through a URL link. And because we've imported in pandas, we can use that pandas command to read the CSV file that's available through the URL. Then when we, the data object we created was Boston_DF. When we put that into the code cell here, you can see we bring up the data set. Now we've introduced in an extra column. We can get rid of that in a moment. But we have the full suite of the data, 506 rows, in fact. What we're trying to predict is the median price. And all these other columns of data you can track by going back to the definition. So the level of criminality, the proportion of land zoned for over 25,000 square feet, proportion of non-retail businesses, we have a dummy variable for Charles River, 1 if the electoral district borders the Charles River, the level of air pollution, average number of rooms per dwelling, the age of the property, so what proportion of properties in a particular electoral district date before 1940. And keep in mind that what we're trying to predict is the median price in an electoral district, right? Not a single house, as opposed to a group or the median of housing in a particular electoral district. The weighted distance to 5 employment centers, the index of accessibility to radial highways, the tax, the pupil-teacher ratio, and then proportion of people with lower economic status population. Okay, so as we run through, the treatment here is quite good. The breakdown I found very attractive. We deleted out of our data set, we dropped the unnamed column. So when we come down here, you can see we dropped out the unnamed column. And then all this code, of course, I should emphasize, is coming from Stephane Dedieu, and I've left the link to the GitHub and all the other materials there on Stephane's GitHub, all done to a very high level, and I thought would be useful as a learning resource for students. And then just the breakdown of the different, so we have our data, no missing data, okay, it would appear. And that as we go through, we can see, you know, where we had binary variables, okay, there's some zeros, but otherwise no zeros, okay. And then an exploratory data, import in using the Folium library, the Boston map. So once you give the longitude, latitude, we can go to the map, and that's interactive. And that's sort of useful because when we look at Boston here, we can think of the location, and then Boston's a bit funny. It's not a contiguous area. I think Cambridge is not necessarily in the city of Boston. And on the other side as well, this area is part of Boston, but I'm not sure if the area down here is part of Boston. So the metropolitan area is actually limited. It's not a contiguous area. So anyway, it's good to see the map, right? And Boston descriptive statistics. Now, what I found very attractive here, and I'll skip through most here, but each segment actually breaks down, and some hypothesis testing was set up. So if you're doing a sort of introduction to statistical analysis, the data set is sort of redeployed a little bit away from just regression analysis to actually constructing hypothesis and testing the hypothesis.